Joining us this afternoon, and it's a category that 6 months ago we probably didn't realize we'd be talking about today, but it's certainly one that does have some significant viability in today's environment, and a lot of questions surrounding it. So my goal today is to try to provide a more clear picture of what the RICHTECH AATSS systems are all about. In doing that, I'll just give you a little bit of history about the company. We'll run through the presentation, which shouldn't take too long. It's about 15, 16 slides. And then the goal is to answer as many questions as possible at the end. I was hopeful to have our lead tech support individual here today, but he's been swamped to say the least, and we're adding tech support by the day. So he wasn't able to make it, but I'll do my best to answer technical questions. Anything that I can't answer, which I guarantee you there will be a question that I can't answer, we'll take note of it and circle back and try to get that information to the individual that needs it. So with that, we'll get started. RICHTECH is a company that's been around for about 21 years now. This is not, believe it or not, our primary focus, or historically hasn't been. RICHTECH is a multimedia, virtual reality, augmented reality company. We spend up until this year, we spend a majority of our time really creating interactive displays and events for large corporations around the world. Work with big companies like Caterpillar and Deloitte and Touche and Burger King, et cetera, doing some of their big corporate events with virtual reality, et cetera. Having said that, we got into some of the COVID-19 preventative measures in categories that were just a natural transition for us. Things that we were already doing, like facial recognition, scanning, that type of stuff. In our current form of business, it was easy for us to kind of pivot and to begin creating products that would help mitigate some of the COVID-19 challenges out there, and really allow people to get back into the public spaces, back to work, back to school, back to business, and to be able to open things up again. So we've been busy. This year's it's been a crazy 5 months, 4 months, I should say. But it's we really believe and know that we're doing a good thing by providing technology and product like the temperature scanning systems, or temperature screening systems rather. So with that, Katie, if you can go to the next slide, I'll start to give you a little bit of background on what our focus is with the AATSS. Essentially, the goal here is to look at the environment that we're in. You know, it was not too long ago, a couple of months ago, that pretty much the entire country was in lockdown or quarantine or stay at home, safer at home, depending on the state that you live in. And that lasted for a period of time. But the reality is that things need to get moving again. And how do we do that, right? With the AATSS, our focus is to give people the peace of mind to know that if they're going to go back to work, if they're going to go back to school, if you're going to go into a restaurant, if you're going to go into a bowling alley, this is a measure that you can put in place to know that everybody there has been scanned for a fever, a temperature. So that's our focus, is really to be able to do that. And the product has kind of taken on a life of its own. We started with what we call our V1, which was really just a plug and play on the screen temperature taking system. And that's all it did. It was just, you walk up to it, you get your temperature scanned, it gives you a reading on the screen, and that's it. And now we've created the V2 Pro, which allows you to do so many more things. And we'll talk about that in more detail here shortly. But that's the focus. These products are ADA compliant, they are HIPAA compliant, and we exceed FDA requirements. We've actually submitted for FDA certification, even though it's not required right now. And we're waiting on that official FDA certification in the event that it is required somewhere down the road. But all the information that we've submitted have exceeded the FDA requirements, so we're extremely confident that there won't be any issues with that as well. Next slide, please, Katie. So advanced thermal imaging, essentially the technology is going to very quickly take a scan of your entire face. It's got The facial recognition software, as I mentioned, it's a very accurate product, plus or minus 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And really the goal, as I said earlier, is just show employees, show customers, students, teachers that you care about their health and safety in this indoor environment. It will detect the temperature in less than 3 seconds, and that's these are all features that exceed most of the other products that are in the market today. Next slide. I'll talk briefly about the V1. The V1 is kind of, we still do a lot of business with the V1, but it's the V2 Pro, which is the primary interest these days. That's the V1. It's, it comes with a wall mount. You walk up to it, it scans your face and scans over 200 points on your face and gives you a reading on the screen and gives you a pass-fail. So it basically, it's a self-contained unit. You turn it on and it's ready to go. And that's about all there is to it. But that was a very popular item early on. We still do a significant number of V1s, but for people that don't want to do anything more with the information, that's a great product. Next slide, please. Now we get into the V2 Pro, and this is where a majority of the focus is today because of the ADA and the HIPAA compliance. That's huge. Some other things that you get with when you move from the V1 to, hello? Did somebody have a question? Okay. When you move to the V2 Pro is you get the IP65 weather resistant technology. We also do basically sunlight refraction, so that even though none of these devices are really meant to be used in an outdoor environment, it does kind of broaden the scope of where you can use the V2 Pro, maybe in a doorway or outside in a tinted area. It kind of eliminates some of the challenges that most other devices have when it comes to direct sunlight, extreme temperatures, that kind of stuff. So that's a significant upgrade with the V2 Pro. Another thing that you get is the software compatibility, the software suite that comes with it. This, like the V1, can be used as a plug and play unit where you just set it up, turn it on, and if you want that on the spot screening and that's all you want, that's fine. Additionally, through Ethernet connections and the software, it opens up a whole world of additional information that you can do or things that you can use it for, including recording individuals' history by day, by temperature and scan. You can create email and SMS alerts so that when there is an elevated temperature, it will automatically send out a push notification through text or through email. You can actually personalize the screen as you walk up to it. It can have your company logo on there. It can provide instructions on please wear a mask or no mask needed when you're testing the device. So there's just a whole bunch of things that the software allows you to do with the V2 Pro that a lot of companies are really interested in kind of tracking that information today. Let me talk a little bit just again about how the product works. As I said, it scans 200 points on your face, and unlike a scanning gun, you see a lot of the infrared scanning temperature scanners out there that just scans 1 point. That can very easily get an errant reading because of a cold spot or a hot spot on your face. The reason that we scan over 200 points is that you're going to get some outliers. You're going to get some readings that just don't match up because of for whatever reason you just had a sip of coffee or you had an ice cream cone and there's a certain spot on your face that's colder or hotter than it really should be. So we weed out the errant readings and the outliers and provides a very accurate temperature reading based on that. So again, from 1 point to 200 points increases the accuracy significantly. You can use the device wearing a mask. That's a commonly asked question because how do we scan 200 points if your face is covered? We basically need 20% visibility of your face. So as long as you've got at least 20% and you stand within the silhouette that's on the screen, it's going to get an accurate reading. It can also detect whether you have a mask on or not. So if your establishment or there's an environment that requires a mask to enter, not only is it going to give you a temperature reading, but it'll also detect if you have your mask on or not. If you don't have it on and you have it set to require a mask, it will alert you to please put your mask on and test again. So those are some of the oftenly used features of the V2 Pro. Next slide, please. This just goes into a little bit more detail on specifications of the product. It's very difficult to see, I think, on everybody's screen, but I'll just give you a quick rundown as it relates to some of the key specs that people care about mainly. 7-inch LCD display. It's got the medical grade thermal sensor, wide angle camera. It's got the facial recognition, face mask detection we talked about, and then identity verification. So if you have somebody set up in your system based on their image that you've captured before, you can personalize that message to that individual, et cetera. And then the IP65 water and dust resistance as well, upgrade that we talked about earlier. Next slide, please. These are some mounting options. The pedestal, the one on the far right there, is by far the most popular, just because it's freestanding. You can move it around. You don't have to mount it to a wall or a fixture or a desktop. So the pedestal mount is available. We do have some of these other options like flexible arms and et cetera, that if there's a need, we can certainly fill those requests as well. Things like turnstiles, et cetera. These are all products. There's a roadmap beyond what we're talking about today of products that we're developing and creating to go along with the AATSS, but these are just a few examples. Next slide, please. We talked about the remote notifications. One of the other things that I didn't mention is the live monitoring. So once you have this hardwired through the Ethernet LAN connections, et cetera, you can actually monitor the unit via the camera through a desktop. And what that gives you the ability to do is just, further security. If you want to sit and kind of monitor traffic as it comes through, that's available too through the live camera and the customizable on-screen messages and instructions as well. Next slide. So compliance and data security. We talked a little bit about FDA, ADA and HIPAA compliance. It's a big deal to a lot of companies, and we made certain to make sure that we were one of the first ones to market with an ADA and HIPAA compliant device. And I can speak to kind of what makes us HIPAA compliant. You can actually choose not to display a temperature on the screen. You can actually just have it say pass fail. So instead of putting 100.4 fail, you can just have it say fail. You can set it up to not record facial images, so you don't store those on the device or through the software. And you can choose not to store temperatures either. You can just have it as a screening device, and once it's gone, it's gone. The other thing is that we have HTTPS field level database encryption. So the software is completely encrypted, which is a requirement for HIPAA compliance, and the device is also password protected. So those are things that, as we're storing, if we choose to, some of this sensitive information that today from a government standpoint is not an issue based on what's going on in the testing that needs to be done out there, but it certainly could be down the road. So it's important to have those kind of safeguards in place. Next slide, please. We talked about the outdoor applications. We've actually, probably within the next week here, we're going to begin to include a detachable visor that that will ship with the V2 Pro. It's not shipping with that yet, but it will be in the very near future. And that's just another element to help us in outdoor environments. We've had companies buy our product that they're installing them on school buses and in entryways of schools, et cetera, which, depending on where you're at, certainly in upstate New York, it's cold and windy, and weather can be a challenge. So we just keep adding feature sets to help kind of get through that challenge of testing in those environments. Next slide, please. We've gone over a lot of these. Attendance tracking is another one that this device will cover. I think the key takeaway with some of these added features that we've added with the new software suite is that our goal is not only to provide a device to get through the COVID-19 challenges, but hopefully we get past that someday. Maybe this is just, you know, the way things are going to be moving forward. But in the event where companies aren't screening for temperatures in the future, what else can we do with it? You know, we can do attendance tracking, we can do record keeping and data export, we can do wireless key access, so that if you walk up to the device and through the facial recognition software, it can unlock a door that is set up through the software and with a smart door as an example. So these are things that we want to make sure that we have a product that not just lasts for the next 6 months to a year, however long it takes, but it still has viability beyond that as well. Next slide, please. So if we look at this market as a whole, I talked a little bit about the handheld thermometers out there. Those can be very costly. They're certainly not costly out of the gate, right? You can find one very cheaply on the internet or at Target or Walmart or wherever. But what we find is that people buy, it's a repeat purchase because a lot of them are defective. Most of them are defective. They don't last very long. You've got to change batteries on it. You've got that single scan. And one of the big ones is that you need a resource. You physically need someone standing there taking individuals' temperatures. And there's a cost associated with that too, recording temperatures if you choose to do that, et cetera. So the handheld thermometer has really not been a great solution for most people. Not to mention the fact that you need to be standing closer than 6 feet of somebody in order to scan their forehead accurately, you know, which really kind of increases the chances of spreading the virus. So, you know, it's out there. A lot of people are using it, and I think, you know, it's just reactionary. That's the way things kind of go. But people are definitely moving away from it as well. And then you've got very expensive thermal imaging products that you know, can cost $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. The accuracy of those we found is not as accurate as our devices. They also require black body calibration, so that's another cost to buy a black body calibration device, and you have to calibrate it every time you turn it on. Whereas our device is self-calibrating, and there's no calibration required by the individual. And they're very, very complicated and complex to set up. So it's more costly out of the gate, and it's provided challenges along the way. And then you get into the RICHTECH device. As we talked about, from an accuracy standpoint, you can't beat it. It's the most accurate product in the market as it relates to, or at least this category, with those 200 points, et cetera. So we've got medical grade accuracy, very cost efficient, although again, nobody expected 6 months ago that they'd be spending money on this category, period. Fully autonomous. You don't need to have somebody standing by monitoring it. You do get the audible alarm that goes off when there is a fail result as well. You've got remote notifications, so you can be doing something else and you can be alerted that there's an elevated temperature so that you can tend to that individual. You've got record keeping, full temperature screening implementation, and we're trusted by well over 1,000 clients in the U.S. This slide's out of date. It's well over 2,000 by now. But that's kind of what the market looks like. There's very entry-level products that are cost efficient, but they kind of create challenges in the long run. And then you've got the very expensive products, and then you've got our product, which we believe we found a really nice sweet spot for. Next slide, please. So getting back to that original slide, the goal here is to allow people to get back into open spaces, public environments with a little bit of peace of mind, right? That everybody's tested. I will speak for just a minute on what does a failed test equate to. The CDC recognizes 100.6 degrees Fahrenheit as a fever. So anything at 100.6 or higher is considered a fever. We set the device when it ships at 99.6 degrees. And the reason we do that is because the skin temperature is typically 1 degree lower than your actual body temperature. So if you show a 99.6 on the surface of your skin, you've got a temperature of 100.6 or higher. So that's where we set the device to alert to. Next slide, please. Talking about some of the clients that we referenced, and actually this, I added a slide here. If you can go one more, Katie, that'd be great. So that was 2 weeks ago, and this is kind of an update of current clients and recognizable names and companies that are using our product. And these are repeat customers. That, you know, a lot of these customers bought a unit or bought 2 units, and you know, they're kind of dipping their toe in the water, seeing if this device works, if the product works, is it going to meet our needs? And they've come back, many of them, and bought multiple units and devices. So we definitely know that we're doing something right in that regard. Really, the list grows by the day. Next slide, please. So that kind of wraps up where we're at as far as the AATSS devices and kind of what they're intended for. You know, there's perhaps we'll have another webinar in the future where we can talk about some of the other products that we have in development in this same category. But as far as the product and the feature set and what it offers, that should give a pretty good overview. And at this point, I'd love to open it up to questions and try to answer anything that anybody's got out there that they're curious about or not sure on the functionality of the device, et cetera.
Thank you so much, Matt. We do have a question. Ron asked, can the kiosk ask screening questions such as, have you traveled out of state in the last 14 days?
So it cannot ask a question that you can provide a response to. You can go on through the live camera and ask a question, so that camera monitoring that we talked about earlier, if you do have somebody in an office and you want to ask a question, you know, via the device, that way you can do it. But it doesn't give you the ability to kind of touch screen respond. It's a no touch device. So hopefully that answers your question.
Fantastic.
Could you program it to say on the greeting screen that if you've been out of the country within the past 14 days or whatever it was, to let someone know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can, that customization feature, whether it's your company logo, welcome, please, you know, wear a mask before testing. You can pretty much you can put anything you want to on there and make a statement like that. If you have traveled in the last 14 days, this is the next step.
We have another question from Andy. Can you set the temperature to whatever you want?
You can adjust the temperature up or down. We don't recommend it because, again, it's set to CDC guidelines, but yes, it is adjustable.
Is there a limit on the number of people it can store, the facial recognition?
So it can handle up to 10,000 identities and 100,000 data entries. So 10,000 identities is what you can create with the facial recognition, and if you want to assign an ID number to that person or a name to that person. And then if you did get to 10,000, each of those 10,000 identities could have, in theory, 10 tests associated with them. And then once you reach that 100,000 max, you can just erase the data, store it somewhere else, and erase it on the device and start over again.
Okay. Have you seen your units installed on buses yet?
Haven't seen them yet. This is a fairly new development, and we answered a lot of questions last week in a similar webinar around buses and schools specifically. And the question was, you know, how do we, the original question was, can we scan as students come onto a bus? And I think where we landed was based on the weather and the conditions in this part of the country that the question was coming from, that they were going to mount the device inside the bus near the driver, so it protected it from sunlight and extreme weather conditions, etc.
Is it wireless? Can it be?
It can be wireless. There's a Wi-Fi bridge accessory that, you know, can be purchased additionally to make the device wireless as well.
Fantastic. Any more questions? I will say that Helen Marks believes in this product so much we use it at our own facility. So we absolutely believe in its effectiveness. Excuse me.
There is a 1-year warranty that comes with the device. I should add that as well, with an optional extension to a 2 or 3 year warranty as well.
Any more questions? I think that's it. Thank you so much,
Great.
Matt, for your time. Oh, we have one more, actually.
Yep.
Can a message be sent via text if someone has a temperature?
Yes, you can have it set up when you go into the software and set it up. You can have those messages, either email or push notification, to notify you only when there's an elevated temperature. Absolutely.
Any more? Well, I do want to thank you, Matt, so much for joining us today and talking about this amazing product.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody spending a few minutes here today. And if there are further questions, yeah, please send them in, and we'll get them answered for you.
Oh, there's one more. Is there a support team to contact while setting up?
There is a support team. I'd be lying if I said we weren't overwhelmed at the moment, and we've added a number of tech support people in the last really 3 or 4 days this week. So we're, the answer is yes. There may be a slight delay in response, but you can contact us through the phone number, through web chat, through email. You can contact our support team, and we've gotten back to everybody, and the response time is getting quicker. But it's been a challenge for the past couple of months, and improving by the day.
Mm-hmm.
And these are in stock?
They certainly are.
All right. Well, I think that might be it, unless we get a last minute question in here. But again, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about this product thoroughly. We know it's going to be great and helpful for our customers. And to all the customers who are on this call, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn about this product and let us consult and be a resource for you throughout this pandemic. We did record this presentation, and we will be distributing it to all who join the call. So thank you all so very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day and weekend.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.